this isn't real. The stars are a spirit, and I'm trying to look at the real. I'm counting it. Trying to show spaces so fake. Nobody can relate. So I'm so infinite. Oh, I'm so different. Definite. Yeah. Knowledge.
All right, that's Neo Mode. Globe is not my home. Thanks for joining us today. It is Sunday, the 15th, 2019. The world did not get hit by an asteroid on Friday the 13th, which, again, NASA predicted it. So, just shows you how reliable are they. Think about this. You have people who believe that NASA has the power to land probes on distant objects. Like, oh, let's send the Voyager 1, 30 years ago. Let's go send this hunk of metal to the moon of Saturn, and then from there send it into deep space, where it'll go at, it'll go on forever, basically sending back information about what it's like outside beyond the outer reaches of our solar system. So they're super accurate. Like, they're so accurate that if NASA were archers, you would trust them to shoot apples off your head, blindfolded. And yet, every single time they predict an asteroid is coming, they get it wrong. Every time, with no exception. So, this is a message from, or comment left on a blog. Dr. Kirstenberger, who's an astrologer in Cleveland. But anyway, this guy's a big believer in asteroids. Like, I finally found a believer. And he says, flat earthers think NASA's fake and just takes money out of the budget. Would they vote to defund this? And so this guy, who's actually an astronomer out in Cleveland, he's actually head of the Cleveland Astronomer Society. They hate it when we call them I call them a cult of astrologers, because what they're doing is just dark age mumbo jumbo. They hate it. But it's actually the Cleveland Astronomical Society, not technically a coven. Anyway, they're asking, would the people who think that NASA's fake defund the DART mission? Hell yeah, I would defund DART. This is the double asteroid redirection test. And for those of you who believe we're on a ball and all that stuff, you also would defund this crap. Because you don't actually believe that rocks are coming down from space to hit us. You don't believe it. If you did, you would be a little more responsive to these constant doomsday proclamations. The world was supposed to end on the 13th. A 420-foot asteroid was going to wipe out London, and it missed again. They're playing on your superstition, Friday the 13th. Anyway, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test, or DART, which is basically like air defense, like Scud missiles being shot down by Patriots. Well, the DART is going to be what saves you from Apophis, the world-ending asteroid that's going to kill us on Friday the 13th in 2029, April of 2029. Like, why do they peg these dates, Friday the 13th? Because it's all just superstition. So this astronomer is saying, would we defund DART? Absolutely. I can't believe this guy. I mean, this is what you get. This guy's like 30 years in the field of astronomy, conventional astronomy, orthodox NASA mumbo jumbo, and he's actually afraid of falling rocks to where he's fine with his stolen wealth, I mean tax dollars, paying for the double asteroid redirection test. Now, this is a planetary defense driven test of technologies for preventing an impact of Earth by a hazardous asteroid. DART will be the first kinetic impactor technique to change the motion of an asteroid in space. Now, of course, all you're going to see is a cartoon. Expensive cartoons. Someone didn't get the memo. Oh, you know what? I haven't sent out. I was distracted by a few things. I'll send out a notification really quick here. Okay, let me go ahead and move on to the next topic. Okay, take a look at this. The song Mendoozled was actually removed from YouTube. Now, if you don't know, Mendoozled was a diss track. Mendoozled was a diss track, and basically what it was about was that it was a suggestion that anybody who believes in the Mandela effect to the point where they don't know where they are, their city names change, everything's shifting, we're saying they're being bamboozled by the misinformation effect, which is basically what the Mandela effect is. So we started calling them Mandoozled. Well, the Mandoozled didn't like the video for the song Mandoozled put out by Simi, and they actually had it banned. They had it pulled off YouTube for bullying. So I looked into YouTube's terms of service because they updated everything, and it says they do make exceptions. You are allowed to harass people. It says we allow content that includes harassment if the primary purpose is documentary, educational, scientific, or artistic. So, in other words, Troll versus Trolls, which is a channel that I guess you would describe it as ridiculing people, but it's doing it as part of a documentary. It's basically holding a mirror up to a bunch of internet cam whores, narcissists, and drug addicts. And that's for documentary purposes. There really isn't anything wrong with that, and according to their standards. So that's fine. That should stick. Debates where people call each other names, yeah, that you can harass people in the context of a debate. So fight the flat Earth. He should be fine. He can call you stupid because it's in the context of a debate, which you voluntarily agree to participate in. Scripted performances. Now this is where the Mandoozled track fits in. Insults made in the context of an artistic medium such as scripted satire, stand-up comedy, or diss tracks. Note, this isn't a free pass to harass someone and claim you're joking. Exactly. So, we make a harder line on content that maliciously insults someone based on their protected group status. So, as long as what you're dissing them on is done artistically, and it's not done based on their race or their religion or their gender identity, you're good to go. So this is the video Mendoozled, which was banned. Now, in light of the recent standards, these changes, I don't think that this is any more bannable. So I'm sorry for those of you Mandoozled who thought you could Mandoozle the Mandoozled video, but we've Mandelaed it back into existence. Here you go. Thinking Heart, Mandoozled. The Mandela effect is in crisis. What's happening with the Mandela effect is basically it has collapsed, like a couple of universes collapsing into one.
It's the black hole, right?
What's happening with the Mandela effect is basically
It's all just a title. You're never gonna know who the black hole is. You don't understand science. How's that? You don't fucking understand science.
Well, we might be wrong, but at least it led us to God.
Well, it was the reality. This is a topic that, I'm very, very passionate about. The rules of reality are fucking gone out the window, right? You want to avoid pride. It's pretty much, the images being lifted up over the wall. It's pretty much, some, but it's pretty much, and a little rant that I wanted to do, what I'm saying? I am a person that is very involved. Control is that, he just got ready, so I'm trying to say, like, Keenan. And that's the level of intelligence that we're dealing with.
Enjoy the recycled urine, and thanks for helping to work off America's debt to Chinese. So there you have it, Mandoozled, which fits, I think, the definition of scripted performances. I would also say it fits the definition of an insult made in the context of an artistic medium such as satire, comedy, and music. So it's 100% protected speech. If you don't like it, go back to your safe space. Let me see who's joined us in the chat. I sent out a notice and it looks like we have, okay, good, another 15, 16 people. I just sent out notification to those of you on Patreon. If you're not on the Patreon list, it's $1 per month cover charge. Here's the link. And what you get for that dollar is access to the think tank, which will pretty much keep you at the cutting edge of truth or ism, because no one else goes as far as we go ahead of the curve. I mean, look, the other day, the Fakeologist, who I like, great channel. I was looking at some of his comments because sometimes I do look over people's shoulders. I may not be commenting, but I happen to see what people write because I'm interested in people and what they think and their opinions. And so I saw that he had opined on a certain video about this channel, and he said, I love the Infinite Plane Society, but they go too far with the mask thing. And that's where I'm saying, anytime you hear that you're going too far, you probably need to double down and go further faster. Just dive right in. Oh, don't look at Flat Earth, that's going too far. Don't look into crisis actors, that's going too far. Don't question the news, it's going too far. Don't change religions, it's going too far. Don't switch up your coffee. Everything that you change in your life, there's going to be people saying, don't do it, don't do it. So what you see here is an article that just came out, and this is what I'm showing you. If you were in our Discord server, you would have known about her and her work. You would have watched her stuff a year ago. CIA's former chief of disguise, Jonah Mendez, on how to hide spies. An article about her just came out today in a few different papers where they're saying she's dropping the mask. And the point I want to bring out here is that the spies that they use in various parts of the world have masks that are 100% foolproof. And this has been kept out of the public's knowledge for a long time. And when you really think about what this means is you have been deepfaked on so many levels with no idea. Just like you would imagine that once people figure out this deepfake technology and they can manipulate videos and make anybody do anything, once they have literal, puppeteering capabilities where they can frame anybody, put somebody where they weren't, or whatever, it compromises everything. This is meant to compromise it's said that deepfakers will compromise our political system, that people won't know what's real or what's fake. This is a big thing. It's been hyped up. A lot of popular commenters and intellectuals are speaking on what deepfaking means for reality. So here's an interesting little quote here. This is from Jordan Peterson. Now, Jordan Peterson is, here we go, one of these popular blue pillars, doesn't know about the PSYOPs, but listen to this. The deepfake artists must be stopped. Anytime I see people saying artists must be stopped, I'm like, okay, what? Who do you have to silence? What artists do you need to stifle? What kind of blasphemies are we protecting against now? The deep fake artists must be stopped before we no longer know what's real. He says, I can tell you from personal experience how disturbing it is to discover a website devoted to making fake audio clips of you, for comic purposes or otherwise. The sanctity of your voice and your image is at risk. Anyway, this is discussed at length, a lot of different perspectives on what this means, but what he says here is that this is one of the most disruptive technologies that could have emerged. And this is the general view on it. This is a coming threat. But my point is, it's already been here since we've had a CIA, since we've had OSS. It's been here since the 40s. They can fake things perfectly. And the idea here is that the use of masks to subvert reality, the use of fake, not just masks, when we say fakes, we mean it's the face, it's the hands, it's the voice, it's the background story. We're talking about fabricated, non existent individuals inserted onto the world stage. She says, it may be enough to conceal who people were when they walk out of the embassy at the end of the day so no one follows them home, sees where their house is or where their family lives. But disguises used by the agency could involve the typical props, but more sophisticated techniques have evolved. Quote, we have people who have chemistry backgrounds who evaluate materials for us and who have invented materials for us. After modeling some disguises on Hollywood masks, which were usually made of latex, the CIA sought out better techniques. Latex masks were uncomfortable, they didn't breathe well. We chased after other materials that could animate, which were more breathable, that were easier on, easier off. Hair posed a similar problem. Anyway, she goes into detail about how they create these foolproof masks, and in one of her anecdotes, she describes how in a room full of Saddam Hussein's, she didn't know which one of the 6 was the real one. I mean, none of them were, I don't imagine, but the point is, you wouldn't be able to tell the difference. So this is one example of where we've been looking into something that a lot of people who even auto-hoax the media, who don't trust the history, who call out the daily BS, they think we go too far when we say that this particular well-known celebrity persona might actually be playing another role. Or this person who died on the world stage, who was said to have been killed in the newspapers, is still alive, and this is this person now. These are not so extraordinary claims. Like, here's an example. Here's an example from one of our live streams earlier this month. Actually, the last live stream I did before my YouTube channel was taken down, we were talking about Kevin Booth. And he's a very interesting character in this context. So Kevin Booth was the producer of Bill Hicks. Before Bill Hicks died, he gave a script to Kevin Booth. The script said, basically, I'm going to play the role of this Rush Limbaugh-like right-wing character who goes too far and ends up getting shot by one of his fans or someone he pisses off. So he hands this script over to Kevin Booth, his producer, and then Bill Hicks dies. He gets 33 cancers or whatever. Well then, out of the blue, Alex Jones emerges. Covers many of the same issues. Kind of has a lot of overlap if you look at the early Alex Jones days, but his producer is Kevin Booth. So we already knew who Kevin Booth was, because if there's anybody in the know about the Hicks to Jones transition, it would be Booth, possibly his handler. Definitely in on the joke. No doubt about it. So this is an email I received from someone through autohoax.com. They said to me, you need to look into Eric Mancow Mueller. Now, Eric Mancow is a right-wing shock jock type. Just basically, I guess you'd place him a little bit less conspiratorial than Alex Jones. Kind of a morning show thing. Definitely unlistenable. But Mancow is a consistent guest on the Alex Jones network, on the InfoWars thing. He's been there for years. So I get this email from someone who says that they believe that Mancow is actually Kevin Booth, wearing a goofy mask with the dark hair, the goatee, and the thick glasses. That Kevin Booth, and look, it would make sense if you when you look at it in context, that they would all be a part of the same little program. So here's what he wrote me. He said, it appears to me that Kevin Booth is playing the role as Eric Mancow. They look identical. His production company is called Sacred Cow Productions. His second name, Booth, raises a flag with me. Maybe it's the acting dynasty, John Wilkes Booth. So this is someone who wrote me before about how a lot of these psyops appear to be carried out by elitists. That it's just not regular people becoming crisis actors. It's the son of FBI agents. People like David Hogg. So Mancow has been a frequent guest on the Alex Jones / Bill Hicks show, and he's friends with Booth. Well, here's what got my attention. What got my attention was I found audio of Mancow and Alex Jones, and they had the strangest conversation. In fact, I'm going to have to play it for you because I don't want to lose anyone here. Because we're talking about deep fakes in the context of Mendez, Jonah Mendez, and the CIA, talking about what is actually possible. Now, here's the strangest thing, and this has been debunked. This is what's so interesting about this one. I think they gave away the game here. So Eric Mancow Mueller, who we suspect is Kevin Booth, is hanging out with Alex Jones. Oh, the video's down. You know, this video wasn't down when I covered it about a month ago. Luckily, that live stream has been saved. Look, they're burning books all around. Damn. Okay, well, anyway, here's what it is. So, Mancow was hanging out with an actor known as Harry Lennox. And this is right before the second time Obama was elected. So Eric Mancow's hanging out with this guy, and this guy says to Mancow, according to Mancow, hey, by the way, do I seem familiar to you? And Mancow's like, what do you mean? And this guy's like, well, I am Obama. This guy actually tells this radio host that he's Obama in confidence. Here's the actual quotes. He says, well, do I remind you of him? Barack Obama is me. You've seen me on TV. You've seen me. He is me. Mancow tells Lennox, this is the thing. I'm trying to keep this concise. So this guy is Henry Lennox, hanging out with Mancow, tells Mancow he is Obama. So what Mancow thinks of this whole conversation, he walks away thinking, wait, you taught Obama how to act? Is that what it is? So Mancow, confused, supposedly, goes on to Alex Jones, and he reports on this, and he says, yeah, the strangest thing, I'm hanging out with Henry Lennox, and he claims that he trained Obama to behave presidentially, that this was Obama's acting coach. But his verbiage, to me, says, I am Obama, which is just bizarre. So I look in here, and it's on Metabunk. During an appearance on the Alex Jones show, Eric Mancow reveals that Harry Lennox told him in confidence he was hired to train Obama to look presidential. Lennox was born in Chicago, grew up in Chicago, and gave lectures before he became an actor. His best role was White House Chief of Staff in the ABC series Commander-in-Chief. Mueller, who knew Obama in Chicago before he became president. See, I didn't know this. I didn't know that Mancow knew Obama. Said that Lennox told him that he was the actor hired to teach Obama. Barack is me. You've seen me on TV. Anyway, this is on Metabunk, where they actually go through the videos, which most of them have been removed, which is just bizarre. And they say it's not true. Obama would not have associated with this guy. So, basically what it becomes is a very weird story. Here's Mick West. Mick West says, this is a weak story because there's no indication of what Lennox actually said or if he was being serious. There's a lot of setup here. There's a lot of ancillary nonsense and speculation. In short, it looks like Mancow is deliberately putting a spin on Lennox joking about being Obama. No evidence of anything here. So when Mick West says, no evidence of anything here, it means look behind the curtain. Or look behind the silicone hyper-realistic mask. Because, yeah, this guy, in all likelihood, is wearing one of these foolproof masks. So anyway, this morning, I go onto Twitter, because I had actually been tweeting Mancow for a couple of months now because he owes Mad Mike $2 million. So, Mad Mike Hughes, if you don't know, real rocket man, before he did his rocket launch, he was going on various radio shows, just basically saying, hey, I'm going to launch a rocket, I'm going to prove the Earth flat or round, but first I'm going to launch this steam-powered rocket. If you go to realrocketman.com, you can watch the whole thing. He did it, but before he did the launch, he had spoken to Mancow. And Mancow said, okay, Mike, if you actually get yourself into that home built steam powered rocket and you blast yourself a few thousand feet into the air, I will use my platform to raise you $2 million to pay for the balloon and the helium on your Raccoon. So after that conversation, Mike does the launch and he tries to get a hold of Mancow. No response. Mancow Mueller, who might be Kevin Booth, is dodging Mad Mike. So I wrote him on 11/11 and I said, hey, you owe Mad Mike $2 million, bro. No response. So then today, this morning, I texted him again. I said, Kevin Booth, is that you? No response. A lot of them don't respond, I noticed. Anyway, look at this. This is Mancow. This is Sacred Cow, which looks like Baphomet. It looks like Moloch. It looks like the devil, which wouldn't surprise me. I mean, think about this too. Alex Jones is the guy who supposedly sneaked into Bohemian Grove. No way. Jones/Hicks, friends with Charlie Sheen, whose dad is a Jesuit and a member of the Bohemian Grove. No way. He probably went there every Sunday for barbecues. No way he snuck in. And of course, Kevin Booth. And then this is the Mancow. So this is the type of masks we're talking about. This is a regular face. You can all see it. You see the lines, you see the nuance, the creases, the imperfections. And this is what you would expect to see in a deepfake, where the mask goes over the whole face, it actually encompasses the neck, and it goes under the shirt. They usually use glasses to hide because the eyes are so deep set that that's what normally gives it away. Let me show you an example of how deep set this guy's eyes look in a closer up picture. Well, always covered. I mean, look, tell me this isn't a CIA disguise. You know, the hat, the glasses, the facial hair, looks like the damn Unabomber. And then the bricks. Anytime I see bricks, I just immediately think, you know, Masony. Very Masony. Now here's a few other interesting things too that kind of tie into this. So Andrew Breitbart, if you read Breitbart News, or if you know about Breitbart, the guy who founded it was assassinated supposedly, or he died in 2012. Andrew Breitbart claimed that he had videos of Barack Obama obtained by, man, where did he get these videos from? He said they were videos from like the 80s or the 90s, and it had to do with Barack Obama being at some kind of communist meetup. Here we go. Here's Andrew Breitbart. And before he could basically blow the whistle, he dies. You know, how convenient, right? So convenient. They made a political martyr out of him, and I believed he was dead, you know, when he died. I thought it was legit. I was like, how did this happen? Dies at 43. So I'm looking at this, I'm like, okay, wait a minute. Breitbart staged death. We looked into it later, found out that this was another death faker. And funnily enough, a lot of these death fakers, like Bill Hicks, you know, a lot of them are entertainers or comedians. So this is where it gets a little rabbit holey. So this is Andrew Breitbart. And this is Andrew, or Andy. Let me bring up Andy Kaufman. This is absurd on the face of it, I have to admit. But then when you look at the timelines, it all adds up. And you look at the characters, it all adds up. So Andy Kaufman, suspected death faker, said he was going to come back in 20 years. 20 years after this guy dies, Andrew Breitbart shows up. Here you have another comedian becoming a political agitator. Another actor, comedian becoming an agitator. They all do it. Someone says, Unearther says, didn't Breitbart die rollerblading? No, he didn't die rollerblading. He was having wine at a restaurant, walks out, falls on the sidewalk. But he was rollerblading at the time to throw people off because they had to diminish the appearance of his age by about 10 years for this to work. So he acted young. And my The key word here is acted. He acted young, rollerblading, always doing drugs and partying. No, he was ready to retire when he fake died. It was just one great act. He was a provocateur. He was the one who exposed Anthony Weiner's wiener, that whole thing. So my point is this. So Death Faker comes back, fakes his death again. And so now we're talking about this. Mueller, who may be Kevin Booth, friends with Alex Jones, he puts out a story where Mancal Mueller is saying that Alex Jones was behind the assassination of Andrew Breitbart. You see how this works? So behind the scenes, they all know each other. And like, okay, well, this guy kills this guy. Oh, my character is involved in your death? It's a damn movie being played out, just like the rappers do with their fake deaths. You know, Tupac, Biggie, fake rap beef, fake deaths, and they get another gig somewhere else later. Same crap. And again, this comes from Eric Mankel Mueller kind of theorized about this, and others have talked about it. And without getting too far into all of that, listen to this. Mueller said he was speaking with Breitbart every other day about a TV show he had lined up on a major network. This would, quote, bring the House of Cards down. The information Breitbart had would destroy Barack Obama forever. It's over, said Mueller. And again, Mueller knew Obama in Chicago. We just found out today, Eric Mankel Mueller used to know Obama. And then he's the one who said in this weird article debunked by Metabunk that Henry Lennox knew Obama, taught him how to act while saying he was Obama. Like, look, we're talking about a deep fake comedy show. He says, everybody feels the same way. This guy was murdered, said Mancow, who attended Breitbart's funeral. He pointed out the fact that Breitbart's death was explained as, quote, natural causes by the media before any investigation. A guy goes for a walk in the middle of the night. He's about to launch a big website and bring down the House of Cards on Obama, and then he dies. Mueller said his family and friends were urging him to quit, fearing that this was a warning shot and that Limbaugh might also be in danger. Breitbart gave speeches throughout CPAC conferences where he said he had video of Obama fraternizing with a bunch of silver ponytails like Bill and Bernadine Dorn. Oh, Bill Ayers. Well, it was actually Bill Ayers who supposedly gave Breitbart the videos, which makes you think, okay, well, he was set up or something. Anyway, conspiracy theory, he was murdered. Truth is, that's a rabbit trail. He's not dead, just a second fake death. Andrew Breitbart is alive, and so is Isaac Cappy, and so is Seth Rich. I mean, so many of these political martyrs, rappers, rockers, musicians, who die in these very public ways, they're actually just exiting the world stage. It's really that simple. Now, if you have any doubts, let me show you something here. I'm not going to taint your perceptions. I watched this little bit from 60 Minutes, and it was with a psychologist who is a specialist on human memory. And she said, I can show you a Disneyland advertisement that has Bugs Bunny in there, even though he's a Warner Brothers character. And then later in the day, if you're queried about who you met at Disneyland, you might easily say you met Bugs Bunny. And it's because of the way that memories are associated and the way you recall them. They can throw a memory into the mix. And then your short-term thinking, your confabulating left brain thinking, will piece it together really fast for you. So we're all basically hardwired for confabulation and storytelling and learning. Is this what learning is? You're giving hypotheticals to yourself and then hitting Control S. You're saving in your head. And so false memories can be implanted. So I'm not going to tell you anything other than,
Thank you very much.
This is Alex Jones years ago. See what you guys think. I'll give you a few seconds of him.
You're fucking lying. I'm in transit, baby. I've got a destiny.
Okay. So anyway, this is a video of Alex Jones from 86 or so. You can see it in his face. Now, when I first watched this, I wasn't told it was Bill Hicks. I was told it was Alex Jones, and I fell for it. I was like, oh, it is Alex Jones. You know, what I'm saying here is that if you are not prepped in advance and told you're going to see Bill Hicks, you'd probably default to Alex Jones because you've seen more of him, and this is the Alex Jones look, not the classic Bill Hicks look with his final appearances and interviews. He has the long hair and the beard and the glasses, and that's also part of this thing. And this is what Jonah Mendes talks about when it comes to disguise. You try to create an extreme duality, polar opposites. So before he exits the stage as Bill Hicks to become Alex Jones, who looks like this, just a little older, they said, okay, grow out your hair, grow out your beard, smoke, wear glasses. You know, you have to change so that when you switch to the new person, nobody would put you together. Yeah, that bottom lip quiver. You see that? Yeah, there's nuances in his, I would call them micro expressions. Micro expressions are what give it away. Bottom lip, the way his eyes move up, his character voices. You can actually prove this case without even looking at pictures. You can do it with just audio. In fact, you know who actually figured this one out? And I know they did this as a joke, but if you remember, there was this guy on Fox for a long time. He was always crying. What was his name? Glenn Beck. Yeah, Glenn Beck. So Glenn Beck's sidekick actually did a side-by-side comparing Jones to Hicks, and he made a great case, and I'll probably play that at some point. I mean, I don't really want to focus on this one because we're always looking at the bigger picture and what the pattern happens to be. And the pattern does happen to be these deepfakes are being used as political agitators in the media, in alternative media specifically, but who knows? They're probably all over. I mean, look, you have Nicole Simpson, who fake died in a very provocative race war psyop. And that's the underlying purpose to these things. It's all about division. So she fake dies, comes back as the face of Fox News, where she can just race bait for a living, where she can agitate for a living. I mean, it's the same gig. CIA all the way. Agitators. Commenter says, wonder if facial recognition can detect the deepfakes. Last night we talked about this. In fact, I have a few articles we went over last night about this facial recognition technology and how, yeah, there are people using masks. I have one here, I think linked up, where they do fool these. They do fool the software. Now this isn't a deep fake. It looks like Hillary Clinton's just running out of adrenochrome. That's why she needs to get back into office really quick. Here it is. Futurism.com. Hackers duped facial recognition mask. Yeah, this is the one. They did dupe the systems with this mask, which they call creepy. This is from Futurism.com. Decent site. Here's a link. And you can print them out. You get a 3D printer. You know, you could print out a mask, wear it. But the ones that we're seeing, the most sophisticated ones, actually make use of an entire head covering plus neck. Okay, speaking of fake, there may be a fake nuke attack. If you're in Round Rock, Texas, your National Guard has been doing drills for, it says here, National Guard units from Texas and Louisiana are meeting at Round Rock. The training was staged to simulate chemical and radiological and nuclear contamination. The units had to set up contamination boundaries, quarantines, and search for and extract crisis actors. So there you go. Might have something fake coming down the line. Fake UFO sightings 2019. I brought this up last night really briefly. So for 2017, 2018, I was always talking about how there's no more UFO sightings. And there were a number of published studies that said UFO sightings were at an all-time low. And this is in 2018, where they had dropped steadily. And I noted that the drop in UFO sightings is consistent with the increase in the number of cell phones with cameras. What gives? Shouldn't we see more? Well, now I can't really say that because 2019 was a banner year for UFO sightings. How convenient. Here's a link if you want to read Hoaxed World for free. It's a book called Hoax World: How Mass Media Became the One World Religion. This was formerly published as Secret Religion of the Elite. It's updated and I made it free on Smashwords. And that will bring you up to speed with my views on what the media actually is. Okay, a few other things I want to go over, and then we'll be back later to take calls. "15,000 seafloor holes have mysteriously appeared off of the California coast. Thousands of round holes on the ocean floor, measuring some 600 feet across. This may have some significance. No one knows why. I thought your scientists knew everything. So I guess what's the answer then? Gravity? Gravity waves did it. Underwater gravity waves. Thousands of strange round holes scooped out of the ocean floor been uncovered. Like craters, right? Pockmarks. What's with these pockmarks? What is with all these craters? Experts believe these are inactive pockmarks, and they've been inactive for 15,000 years. So I don't exactly know what they mean or what the purpose of them is, but the reason why it stands out to me is we've been looking into this channel on YouTube called Sturgio Studios. And this guy has a very, very interesting theory about the moon. He believes that the moon is not actually a physical object, but is in fact something of a plasma event being projected into the ionosphere, that it's a hologram, that it's not only that, but that it's a reflection of the Earth below. In other words, if you take an AE map, the standard idea that the flat earthers will show you, where you have the North Pole in the middle, and you have all the countries splayed out from that center. So here's an example. And yes, it looks like the UN flag in its arrangement. I mean, it's a new concept if all you've seen your entire life has been globes. This is what it would look like from God's eyes view if you were up above the North Pole and it was flat. So, based on this map, this channel, and it's Sturgio Studios 10, and I'll share the link. His contention, and this is fascinating, is that the moon is actually, like he said, an X-ray more or less. That if there were some energy below, some radiant energy, like some type of a light, he explains it as a black sun. If there was something below the Earth's surface, uniformly, beaming up, projecting up, like imagine like the Batman spotlight, you put the bat sticker on a spotlight and you can shine the bat on the clouds. So if you were to do that to the Earth itself, and if the light that you were using were to go through the water, but if it were slightly blocked by the land, well, your projection, it wouldn't look like a bat, but it would be dark where the land is. And that's what he's saying that the moon is. That the moon is actually a projection of what's below, and that where you see the water, or rather where we have water, is where we see the moon as brightly lit. The darker areas would represent the land. So what he did is he took a picture of the moon and he superimposed the flat earth map over it, or the AE map over it, where he believes the North Pole would correspond to. So on the right, that area that looks just like an isolated round mass, that would be your Australia, and so on. Now this only accounts for land on half of the dark surfaces. But in his explanation, he even suggests that the craters on the moon are really just nothing more than the surface on the bottom of the ocean projected, and that they're not actually craters, but they're underwater formations. He has a number of videos on the topic. They're all very interesting, and he shows you how he arranges the continents I think it's definitely worth looking into. Take a look. So this is the moon. This is one of his videos. We always see the same face. He says, this is because the moon happens to be a plasma phenomenon in the ionosphere, and it shows us the Earth's flat surface mirrored. And the more I look at it, the easier it is for me to tell. South America, North America, it's actually kind of interesting how closely. Now they'll say it's pareidolia. They'll give you some kind of mental illness to say why you can do it. Like you see shapes in the clouds, sure. But he bases it off the North Pole. And again, it only makes sense if we're on a flat plane, if the moon isn't what they say, and if it does make sense, if this does happen to be the case, well, then there's a lot more land that we're not privy to. Again, think of it as the Batman projection, where the dark spots are the land, and then, of course, the part that aren't blocked, the areas that aren't blocked would be the brightest. Okay. Okay, so here he goes to the different countries, and he, like I said, superimposed the map onto it. You can see Africa, you can see Asia, and then this would be, of course, Australia at the bottom. And he rotates it all around, but on this side of the moon, we don't have names for these land masses, if this is what this is. I find this to be also very fascinating because the flat earthers who believe there's a dome don't believe there's any more land. Well, if you look at the AE map projection and where he places the North Pole, it doesn't encompass all the land, so the dome, Mark Sargent, your little dome, would end right here, and you'd be leaving out most of the story. And that's why I think that the whole domed model, if anything, is just to contain your imaginations, so you no longer look. You lose your curiosity. You have all the answers you need. Oh yeah, God put the light up there. That's all I need to know. Well, maybe not. Maybe it explains something about the nature of the universe. And then some. As above, so below, as the Hermeticists say. Maybe there's some truth to it. So right here where I'm circling, this would be your AE map. This would be the area covered on your UN flag. And it's mostly water. I mean, we got jibbed. The people on the other side, on the dark side, or the other side that we don't see, they have more land than water. So this is something else to consider too. If you decide to make a southern expedition, you don't want to leave from Australia. You probably want to leave from Africa when you go south from there. You want to make sure, because this is, again, just a theory, but if it's the case, you're going to want to go where you're not going to run into just ice. And judging on where the equatorial lines would be, you're not going to have ice if you go that route versus going south of Australia or New Zealand. The idea that Antarctica is an ice wall is really, I think, premature, and it's fantasy, and it's never been validated. So if you want a link to this guy's site, this is Sergio Studios 10. I'm going to put the link in the chat for you. Somebody said dome doozled. Yeah, has anyone here been dome doozled? I mean, even if there is a dome, does it curve? You get agents like Oakley, whose job it is to teach you the dome without saying the D word. They don't want you to say dome, because if he says dome, you'll say, well, that's an argument from the Bible. So he won't say dome. He'll say, well, you can't have a pressure system without a container. It's like, yeah, you already said that 10,000 times. But there's a few questions that need to be answered first. Where does this, quote, container end? Does it end at your imaginary ice wall? Which is usually the answer if you dig. They can't be honest and straight up with it, which doesn't make any sense to me. Truthers who can't say what they really mean. The container could be a Tupperware container. It could be a Tupperware top. It could be saran wrap. We don't know. But the fact is, you chastise the globe believers for being a bunch of curverts, saying that there's curve that you can't see. Well, then here you are saying, oh, there's a curve because there's a dome. Why can't it be flat? Well, because if the sky's flat and the earth is flat and they don't meet where they say it meets, then it could be giving away that maybe there's more land, and that's what they're trying to hide. If you haven't joined on Patreon, it's a $1 cover charge. It gives you access to the think tank, newsletters, and live stream notifications. You'll be in the know. You won't be left out of anything. And you know how things have changed, but our network is continuing to grow. I mean, even now we have 133 domestic terrorists watching. And if you're watching from YouTube, you should get on Patreon so you can get into the cutting edge platforms as we transition, because you know as well as I know that YouTube is going to flush you out. Oh, I didn't get this yesterday. So yesterday, ESPN.com, high school football team in Newtown won the state title. Newtown wins title on Sandy Hook hoax-iversary. 36-yard touchdown. If I was going to go full Zachary Hubbard on it, I would say 36. 3 sixes. But regardless, Sandy Hook. And then here you have, good to see him again, Gene Rosen. Has a new starring role as a Pittsburgh rabbi at the Tree of Life, going by Jeffrey Myers. Does anybody here have any of that facial recognition software? We did an analysis last night. Gene Rosen, one of the worst crisis actors of all time, overacting, incoherent, continuity errors, couldn't get anything right. He made an appearance here as a Pittsburgh rabbi, and you could see in his eyes the teleprompters. You can actually see the reflection of the teleprompted messages he's reading. They're like, hey, don't let this guy get off script. We don't want another Sandy Hook. Because the Pittsburgh thing was just as fake as Sandy Hook. Okay, there must be something important here. Oh yeah, look. Okay, remember we've been talking about how you can't have a bowl cut and you can't make the AOK symbol anymore? Well, U.S. military opens an investigation at West Point. This is crazy. This is West Point. This is an elitist institution. These are, trained midshipmen, cadets, trained in DNC. They learn all the stuff they're supposed to learn. They're moving through their grades or their ranks or whatever. So here he is making an AOK symbol. The hand symbol, once innocuous, meaning AOK, is now associated with white power, adopted by fringe, racist figures. So, and the picture will come up here in a moment. You have this cadet making an AOK symbol, and it goes viral because, of course, they're saying it's a hate symbol. Well, how can it be a hate symbol if only a few haters, like a few websites, decided to make it such? Who is the authority on this to say this is hate or this is not hate? The bowl cut is now hate. The public is massively triggered by this. They're massively triggered by it. They think it's a sign. Look, they're investigating it like it's a crime. They said he flashed a white power symbol. So here's the actual picture. You got to dig to see it. They're making all kinds of hand signs here. So this cadet on the top right is going to be executed. They're going to put him before a firing squad. And they're going to kill him for, I don't know what this is exactly. I mean, actually, you know what it looks like? It looks like he's picking a piece of lint off somebody's shoulder. That's not even the AOK symbol. I can't even see if he's got all 3 fingers out. What is so egregious about this crime? I think it's more criminal here that this guy can't tuck his shirt in. Look at the guy in the middle. What's happening there? And this guy, what is he chugging right there? Some kind of fruit snacks? There's no discipline here. Like, I see something wrong with everything in this picture, but the symbol here. He didn't do it right. So I got a question. Let's say we have some hateful people who have some hate websites. If we get them to start wearing yarmulkes, just like, hey, let's make that our new hate symbol. If you're in my club and you hate this particular demographic, put this hat on at our rallies. Will they make that a hate symbol? Because, we're fringe. If you're on the fringe and you start putting on a yarmulke and you say the earth is flat and you hate NASA, will they then ban yarmulkes? Rosie Bear says executed. No, they're not. They're not really going to execute him. I'm just. It's like what? I mean, they might as well. That's where they're leading to. Hey, this is another great idea stolen by us. This is a new movie called Avenue 5 on HBO. So a few years ago I said Earth's going to be destroyed according to their paradigm, and if we're not able to show people how fake it is, we should get into the business. And so we created this thing called Saturn 2060. And Saturn 2060 was basically, let's let NASA and SpaceX and Blue Origin do all the hard work. Let's allow them to make all the mistakes, suffer the losses, and invest in the infrastructure. And then once it becomes cheap, let's go move to Saturn. And so what I suggested was casinos on the rings of Saturn, life extension tech, robot servants, luxury living for 1,000 years. We came up with this idea of luxury living by sailing around Saturn, harvesting ice from the rings in massive space stations. We came up with this plan about a year ago, 2 years ago. Well, now here, HBO has a TV show called Avenue 5. And Avenue 5 is about a luxury trip going around Saturn.
Literally nothing to do with Herman Judd.
And it's a comedy.
You're not in control of the mission.
Bit of an update. The 3 injured passengers no longer injured.
So it's a soap opera on top of a big spaceship from the creators of Veep. And it's called Avenue 5, and it takes place at Saturn.
No man left behind.
Dead or alive?
Luxury living around the rings of Saturn. I'll be watching it. I like to review the types of stuff that they're showing people. The climate hysterics are off the charts right now. I should probably go through some of this. There's so much to go through today. I'm going to have to get on later and take some calls. Oh, here's another one. This ties into the Pensacola. So the Pensacola fake shooting was followed by a cyber attack that shut down 311 over there, where they get their info. 311, of course, has some significance to the idea of space war, 9/11, in the predictive scripting. So here we see New Orleans is under cybersecurity attack and declares a state of emergency. This is the next wave. This is the space wars. I have a feeling that cyberspace wars and space wars are part of the same program. So we're probably going to see more of these types of, quote, attacks. So it says here the attack started at 5 a.m. No ransom request has been made yet. State and federal agencies are assisting the city in the recovery and the investigation of the attack. No word on when full network service will be reinstored. Okay, here's another one. This just came out. Google NASA Global Brain Hive Mind Artificial Intelligence Lab. They're trying to convince you that they've created God or that they are God now. And I'm also convinced that the Mandela effect is a conspiracy theory intentionally planted to get people to believe in quantum computing, D-wave quantum computers, as being able to create simulations of reality so real that they can actually house consciousness and they actually become real. It's all absurd. It's all sci-fi, but now here's the article I wanted to show you. This is from WSJ.com and a few other stories like it, but basically I can't access this one because I'm not a subscriber to Washington Street Journal, but I'm just pointing it out. Look into Jonah Mendez. She's the CIA's former chief of disguise, because what we're bringing into the topic here is that stories about shapeshifters and clones and reptilians have all been planted to hide the fact that she could be wearing a mask and you wouldn't know. It's that bad. She even describes it here. She says they would put the new masks on these agents. They would say, go down and have lunch with people you know, your peers, your subordinates, and your boss. And they would go and they wouldn't be recognized. You know, wasn't there a TV show a little while ago about bosses undercover? Similar theme. Okay, I think we've covered everything I want to cover for now. I mean, the climate hysterics are getting crazy, but what else is new? If you don't believe in climate change, you're pretty much, in their view, you're a denier. But look at this here. Some of this is absurd. Chief cause of climate change is fire metaphors in worship songs. According to researchers under the direction of the UN, the root of global crisis has been determined to be the overuse of fire metaphors in worship songs. Now, of course, this is satire, but it's not that far off. We don't have any proof that the world's heating up. The evidence says otherwise. We don't have proof that the ocean levels are rising. Ice caps aren't melting. Polar bears aren't drowning. We don't have evidence for asteroids coming down to kill us. We were supposed to have been killed by an asteroid last night. Didn't happen. None of the people who actually espouse the beliefs in climate change do anything to green their own lives. Check this out. Greta Thunberg. Apparently somebody looked into her Tesla. They have an electric car. And they found it was littered with single-use plastic trash.
I want you to believe that it's not.
Folks here at the COP25 summit what they think about it before they know that it's Greta's car, of course. We'll tell them that after the fact.
So this is great. This guy basically goes around telling people, hey, you're at this sustainability conference, and what do you think of this? And they show these people this electric car full of single-use plastic trash. And everyone is just ripping on the guy, saying whoever drove that car is a massive hypocrite. And at the end, he's like, oh, well, it was Greta.
As much as you didn't want to believe it, it was St. Greta's Pope-mobile, really, full to the brim.
St. Greta's Pope-mobile full to the brim with single-use plastic trash. Hypocrite of the year.
It was St. Greta's Pope-mobile, really, full to the brim, chock full of climate contraband. It breaks my heart. We spoke to so many people today.
Climate contraband, I love it. You know, I love seeing these people with plastic drinking straws. It's like, oh yeah, you can't get on without it. You actually do need that. We see this all the time. Nothing new here. The hypocrisy of people like Al Gore, you know, it's legendary. They have $15 million a year at air conditioning bills, and they tell you to live in a shanty town. All right. I'm going to be back later on today to take calls. This is One-Eye Jack and the Shells, Pope Elon. And if you haven't subscribed to the Patreon list, I'll drop the link one more time for you.
And if you're going to pick some place to die, then why not Mars? You know, if we're born on Earth, why not die on Mars? Seems like maybe it'd be kind of exciting. But so I think given the choice of dying on Earth or dying on Mars, I'd say, yeah, sure, I'll die on Mars.
Hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come. Give us each our daily bread, and forgive us our sins. For we ourselves forgive everyone who is indebted to us. And lead us not into temptation.
And you can tell it's real because it looks so fake.
There they go. Wait for the sonic booms.
It's a creeper beat, man. Come on. You know it.
You're playing, man. Infinite things, man. The play society. Infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane, infinite plane. Doing my thing, do my thing, do my thing, do my thing. Infinite plane, yeah. I live on an infinite plane. I live on an infinite plane. They telling me different things. That's supposed to be pulling the strings, but I know they playing the games. Since I found out today, I live on an infinite plane. I ain't playing no games. I'm on a different plane. I live on an infinite plane. Yeah. No, the news is fake. They're trying to choose my fate. I know the views is fake. They pushing the global stage. Fake news on the radio wave. All the hope, the whole world is a stage. Body double like I'm Saddam Hussein. Doing my thing. Don't want the fame, just trying to make change. They took out my page. But an infinite gang, infinite plane, playing no games. Infinite gang, we ain't playing no games. Infinite plane, I'm on an infinite plane. Infinite plane, the world that I live in is strange. Cause I'm on an infinite plane. I'm doing different things, yeah, I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. I'm on an infinite plane. Stay with the infinite gang. Supposed to pull the strings, but they can't follow the game. I'm on the infinite plane.